Okay, hello everyone. This is Barbara Kingsley. I am the chair of the Center for Plain Language, and welcome to our webinar about how to submit successfully to the ClearMark Awards. And to get started, I'm just going to let you all know that we've put you on mute just to try to keep some of the noise down, but I do want to ask everyone to keep track of questions that you may have, because we'll have some time at the end for me to answer your questions about the process. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. If I could move the, there we go. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to start talking about the ClearMark Awards, why you should enter, award tiers and categories, judging criteria, how to enter, and then of course, some question and answer time at the end. So starting with about the ClearMark Awards. So some of you have entered before and some of you haven't, but it is a place for us to set a high standard for clarity and simplicity. And in short, we recognize excellence in English and Spanish content created by North American organizations. The other thing that we try to do as we prepare our feedback to you on your submissions is to give you feedback that you can use to improve your content in the future. This year, we have even more exciting aspect to the ClearMarks, which is that we will be giving the awards at Clarity 2020, which is the International Plain Language Conference being held in Washington, D.C. this year. It's going to be at the end of September, September 30th to October 2nd. So this will be a really fun way to celebrate the ClearMarks. So why enter? The most important is that you can be recognized for your outstanding work. It is a competitive process. Last year, I believe we had about 160 entries. So you're going to be up against many other organizations that are developing plain language information. You'll also get feedback, and we do a lot of analysis on your content, and that will help you improve in the future. And you can market your award-winning work. We'll give you press release templates and videos that you can share. So who should enter? Essentially, plain language communicators who created or improved a customer-facing communication that was released in 2017 to 2020 for North America. And you won't be considered if you entered an identical asset, document, or digital information last year. But if you made significant revisions to something you submitted last year, you can resubmit. So fees for submissions for members, $180, for non-members, $230. So you can join the center for $50 and save, and your fees do help pay for the cost of the awards. So the rules, again, it needs to be something that was developed in 2017 to 2019. It should be for a North American audience. It could also be released by an American organization for people outside of the United States. You can enter as many times as you'd like. So if you want to enter in every category, you are more than welcome to do so. But you would need to enter different assets in different categories. However, when you do a bilingual document, you can submit 2 entries in both the Spanish and English categories. You are not going to be eligible if you entered, again, identical or similar assets last year, but revisions are okay. So let's talk about the award tiers and categories. So our award tiers, we have a Grand ClearMark Award, and we offer that in both English and Spanish. We offer category winners, awards of distinction, and to get more information, you can visit our tips page, which gives a lot of detail about these categories and the awards that we offer. So the categories we have 3 digital categories, so websites, apps and microsites, email and newsletters, and then we have print categories, letters or print correspondence, posters, charts, and flyers, infographics. Then we have brochures, which really are documents up to 10 pages, and brochures, which are documents more than 10 pages. So something I would note here is that if you had something like a training manual or a program guide that was 20 pages, that would go in brochures more than 10 pages. We also have legal documents. We have forms and applications and statements, and we have befores and afters, digital and print. So we have quite a few categories to fit your fancy, and I'm sure many of you have documents that could enter in multiple or in different categories. So you might be an organization that has a website that you'd like to submit, as well as, say, a form or a before and after. So next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the judging criteria. So first of all, we have many judges that we recruit to do this, and these are individuals that come out of the plain language world and are always enthusiastic about giving their time and energy to judge. And our judges are looking essentially at the definition of plain language. So at a baseline, can users find what they need? Can they understand what they find? And can they act on that understanding? So this is really the foundation for our judges as they are looking at the entries. When we're scoring, we have various elements, sub-elements of plain language. The first is audience needs. So is it clear what the goal is for the audience? Will they learn or take away a specific action? Is the writing tone and presentation appropriate for that audience? And does the judge get the sense that the creator wanted the audience to understand and succeed? We then look at style and voice. So are you following plain language principles? Does the content feel credible and sincere? Is the voice and style conveying a respect for the audience? And are you avoiding jargon and acronyms? In terms of structure and content, that's the next area. So this is really about how the document is organized to meet the audience needs. So are the sections organized and labeled? Do the labels work to predict what's in the section? Are there effective transitions? Is the order created in a way that helps the user complete tasks or make decisions? And is content created to avoid unnecessary detail? So we're really looking at detail selection. And finally, is the creator presenting information in a balanced way? In terms of information design and navigation, that's the next area. So this is really about helping users navigate the content. So we're looking at, does the document work in terms of typography, color, or white space to guide the reader's attention effectively? Is the layout created in a way that makes the information easy to scan and use? And can a user tell at a glance what's important, what they need to take away? For websites specifically, we want to look at whether there's a visible guided path through the content that really helps the user find what they need and be able to use it effectively. We also look at graphics and charts. So here we're looking at, do the pictures, graphics, and charts support the content? So we're trying to get away from this idea of just having a visual to have a visual. So it's about more than just window dressing, but are these elements really helping the user with the information? Do they understand the points of the graphics or charts? Do they help a user take away important information or show them how to take action? And again, we're looking at submissions going beyond just using images and graphics to be purely decorative. And were these the best, most appropriate visuals, graphics, or charts for this particular type of content? And finally, we spend time looking at evaluation. So this is something that's quite important as you think about your submissions. So we're always interested in the level of evaluation that you use to make sure that your submission worked for your audience. So this could be surveys or focus groups or one-on-one interviews that you may have used as you develop the content to make sure that the data was useful and appropriate for your audience. So we would be looking at your submission to explain what tools you use, how you use them, and why you use them. We're also interested in evaluations that were completed by the representative audience. So if you're developing something for applicants to a program, did you actually go out and test with applicants in the program before you released this to a wider audience? And finally, were the findings used to shape and improve the final product? After we look at all of those different scoring elements, the judges tabulate an overall score. So again, we come back to finding, understanding, and taking action based on the content, and also whether the entry helps the organization achieve a business goal. So if you were looking to help your users make more informed decisions, did this piece of information do that? And finally, we think about really just the bottom line. Is this an example of effective plain writing and information design? So that is a look at the judging rubric. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how you enter. So we will open the entries on March 2nd, and they will go until April 2nd. I've given the link here. The link will go live on March 2nd. And when you submit, there's various pieces of information you're going to need to have at the ready. So I have a list here, some of the basics, the submitter and contact information. We also want the content owner and contact information. Sometimes this is the same as number one, sometimes it isn't. So for example, perhaps you are a consultant, you've developed information for an organization and they've given you approval, you might have a different content owner, but we want all of that information. You'll also need to think about the goal of the entry, the target audience, any constraints. We certainly take those into account. At times you may be up against major challenges and we want to know that. We also want to see how you evaluated success and the impact. And finally, be ready to upload your document or contact into Submittable. Some final tips: get feedback from your teams. We have a Word template that's posted on our webpage that can help you prepare. We want you to tell your story, and we want to know why your entry was unique and what kinds of impact it had on your organization, for your users. And if possible, we'd love for you to quantify the impact. That could be through quantitative data, but also qualitative data that you've collected. When you go to submit, have a credit card ready. And if you have trouble, you can ask for support at Submittable. You can also email us at info@centerforplainlanguage.org, and we are always ready to answer your questions. So now I'm going to open it up for questions from you. So if we could go ahead and unmute so that we can get some of our questions. Sorry, we're trying to get unmuted here.
And they can unmute by pressing *6.
Oh, and you can unmute by pressing *6. Can unmute here. Sorry, having a little bit of difficulty finding the unmute. All right, well, we have a couple of questions that I'm going to take from the group chat. So will the slides be available after the meeting? Yes, the slides will be available. We will also be posting this webinar on our website. So what we'll do is post both the slides and the webinar so that you can have access to them. We have gone over the cost to submit. That is also in the slides. So it is $230, but if you become a member, it's $180. And let's see, if you can unmute yourself, if you have any other questions, you can also send them to us via message. Any other questions? So entries released in early 2020 are not eligible. Typically, we go 2017 to 2020, or we go to the beginning of the year. But here's an interesting part about this year. We started a little bit late. I would be willing to take things that were developed in early 2020. Normally, we don't have that option because we start the submission process early. But if you have something you've submitted in early 2020, I think that's perfectly fine. The main thing is to make sure it's completed and ready to go and that it's already been released by the organization so that we don't run into any issues there. Okay, so here's a question. Can you confirm bilingual documents must be submitted as 2 entries? No, they do not have to be submitted as 2 entries. It is okay to submit in only one. So let's say you have a Spanish document. You can send that right into Spanish for a Spanish entry, and it will be judged on the Spanish side. Our point is you can submit on both sides if you want. So let's say you wanted it to be both judged English and Spanish, you could do both, but you don't have to. $231.80 for each entry, yes. That is not for multiple. That is for each entry.
And so if they were to go and use an entry and enter it into a bilingual category to do one in Spanish and one in English, how would the entry fees be covered then?
I believe that is a double entry. But if anybody runs into that issue, please send us an email. I can confirm that. We have another question. If an entry was released in early 2020 and we do not submit this year, can we submit next year? Absolutely. So let's say you want to be able to submit in next year's. We will go next year from 2018 through 2020. So absolutely. Other questions?
Barbara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. On you had a list of the categories. Do
Yes.
each of those have a non-English equivalent, so we can submit for any of those categories a non-English document? Is that how that works, or are there sort of separate non-English categories?
No, that is correct. So basically, for any of those categories, you could submit into Spanish. So our Spanish, we typically have less submissions, and we don't have all of the separate categories in Spanish. So anything that you have in Spanish would go into that category. Does that answer your question?
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's very helpful. And just so we're clear, does it have to be Spanish? Can it be, Russian or Tagalog or whatever?
Yeah, for right now, we only have Spanish, and that's
okay.
Basically because of the capabilities of our judging. But of course, in the future, I would love to expand that.
Great. Thank you for those clarifications.
Thank you. Let's see. Other questions? I'm looking through. Just a moment. I'm going to Canadian entries. Yes, we do accept Canadian entries. This is a North American. Some people don't realize that the center is a North American organization. So we are happy to submit from any of our North American neighbors. Which category would books and booklets be submitted? That would go under brochures. More than 10 pages for a book, or if it is, obviously, if it's a booklet that's under 10 pages, it would go in brochures up to 10 pages, but it would go into one of those. All right, let's see. What is the reward for this competition? So what you get for this competition is essentially bragging rights that you have won. We do have some small awards that we give. We give trophies to all of our category winners and finalists, and then we have one grand ClearMark that we give in both English and Spanish. Additionally, when you win the award, you're able to publicize that. We have logos that you can take and use and say, you know, hey, we were a winner. And of course, we invite all of the winners to come to the ClearMark Gala, which will be taking place at Clarity 2020. And so that will be an exciting event in person to get your award. Okay, let's see. The difference between, the question is, can you describe the difference between the before and after categories for print and digital versus the other digital and print categories? So essentially the difference is that in before and after, we really need to see a clear before, so where you started and what you were changing, and then the after. In the others, you will not necessarily present it before because some content obviously doesn't have a before. So I would say if you have a real story to tell from this is where we were before we started implementing our changes and here's where we were after, I would definitely put that into the before and after category. If you didn't really have a before or you were starting more organically with your content, then I would go into a regular digital or print category. Okay, let's see. You mentioned, next question, you mentioned that the audience for all entries must be North American. Can we submit entries for global audiences, which include North Americans? Yes, you can. You have to be a North American organization that is developing the content, but it can be for audiences outside of North America. So it could be, let's say you're developing a document that is for a more global audience. Certainly you can submit that if it's being generated out of a North American organization. Any other questions? I'm not seeing any come through. Okay, let's see. Another one came through. Can one document be submitted in more than one content? For example, legal, form, before and after. The answer is absolutely. You can submit it into different areas, but you will pay for those different entries. But you can certainly do that. And sometimes that does make sense, particularly if you have a document that you think could be competitive in more than one category, you can do that. Any other questions? Okay, this is our last call for questions. Okay, I want to remind everyone that if you would like more information, we have all of this information on our website, www.centerforplainlanguage.org. You can also email us at info@centerforplainlanguage.org, and Naomi or I will get back to you with answers quickly. So we really encourage everyone to take part, and we look forward to seeing your submissions. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you.